Good morning, my dear friends and family. Captain Starsky joins the chat. Happy morning coffee to every home. Hello to all the beautiful people. Let's check out what we have today. I know it's Sunday morning. I'm pretty much impressed that a lot of people don't sleep. I see a lot of our legendary Americans there and Canadians as well, and also Aussie Ellie, hello Goldfingers, and Rincewind Wizard, hello. So good to see you, Michael, hello. Also, short update, Larry, good morning. Short update, I freaking changed the battery card finally, because the battery card that I bought was a bit too big. And also the camera accumulator that I bought was a bit too small. And you know who I blame for that? I blame women. You know why? Because they always say that size doesn't matter. You should always freaking measure what you're buying, dude. Seriously, that's like a lesson for everyone. The battery card that I had was 31 centimeter long, and the one that I bought was like 35. How could I even do that? I have no idea. It's probably because I'm stupid. So, good morning, everyone. Good morning, our Australian friends. Hello, Matt. Hello, Neil. And plan for your wellness. Hello, my friend. We all should have such a plan. Russo Jap, Armored Rapier Master, and Lydia. Hello. Let's check out the recent updates, because that's exactly what the reason we gathered today, and also have some coffee. Yeah, the new battery, oh my god, I'm so happy. It starts like immediately. I'm just impressed. Yeah, Ali, thank you for your support. Hello, Matt. Hello, MS Coffee for you. Hello, my friend. First of all, before we start, I think it would be a good idea to remind you one very important thing, right?
Hi everyone, we are fighters of the Rubizh Brigade of the National Guard of Ukraine. We are currently located in Pokrovsk direction, and we are holding the enemy's advance in Donetsk region. Right now, we urgently need a pickup truck for transporting food, water, ammunition and personnel. We appeal to the Cars for Ukraine for purchasing, preparing and delivering the vehicle, but also to the operator Starsky community to support in raising the necessary funds. Thank you for your help. Slava Ukraini! Героям слава!
Those are my guys over there. And just to show you where we are right now, that is our website. Guys, please check it out. The link is in the description. Christmas car for Rubizh. That is our fundraiser we're running together with Car for Ukraine for my guys. Look at where we are. Holy crap! My friends, we're very close. And also, check out these legendary people who already donated. The recent ones, Daniel and Tony. Oh my god, look, that's completely insane. Thank you so much, man. Thank you very much. And Silver Earth, all the family is there. Yeah, that looks absolutely impressive, my friends. Thank you so much for helping my guys. That's something that I also want to do, basically, to help my brigades. They're currently working in Pokrovsk. We know that Pokrovsk is a nasty area at this point, and they require all our support. Since November, Russians were saying that they took Pokrovsk, but the only thing they took would be, all right, I'm not gonna be so, spreading so much profanity, but you know what I'm saying. Thanks everyone who supports my guys. All right, I appreciate it very, very much. Let's check out some of the recent updates. First of all, because we talk a lot of cases and discuss a lot of things about the propaganda on my channel, this one comes straight from Switzerland. So Russian propagandists are massively forging fakes on behalf of Euronews, BBC, and Human Rights Watch. That's literally the recent case, and that is according to Media Monitor in Ukraine. You know that in Switzerland on a new year there was a tragedy when in Crans-Montana bar there was a fire and approximately 40 people lost their lives because of this fire. Russians forged a fake as if a Ukrainian refugee is to blame for that, because apparently he set the building on fire because he was like jealous and everything else, and they literally spread this fake on behalf of BBC, Euronews, and other organizations, which in reality the real report made by the Euronews is basically explaining the reason there were those fake fires, holiday fires. Two managers of the bar are under arrest because they violated the fire safety measures, and there were 0 Ukrainians in the original reports. But what the Russians did, they edited the video, they added Ukrainians, they added basically their story. So also Russians claim that, according to Human Rights Watch, Ukrainian refugees on the New Year holidays committed as many crimes as the immigrants from the eastern countries. There is no such video on the Human Rights Watch channel, and the organization only published several videos on Iran and UK. Again, they are spreading this on behalf of Human Rights Watch. All right, in all sorts of social media. You will find it basically everywhere, in like mega communities, everywhere in conspiracy communities, but on the original website there's no such updates. But again, it's on one hand it's of course natural, because we don't often check the sources. We see that BBC reported or Human Rights Watch reported, and we trust it. In reality, unfortunately, in 2026, we have to actually check the source, all right? Also, Russians created another fake, so on behalf of BBC, that allegedly talks about the mass clashes between Ukrainians and other Europeans, also Ukrainians trafficking people. This fake is based on YouTube Shorts. It was shared on 5th of January, but there is no such short on the official channel of BBC on YouTube. That's again just something to keep in mind, because Russians are very efficient at spreading fakes, especially today with the help of AI. Therefore, you gotta check the information twice. I am not saying that Ukrainian people are saints. Like, if you want to know the realistic picture, all right, the realistic picture that I know, for example, from the recent studies, Ukrainians are to blame for quite a few car accidents, for example, on the territory of Germany. It's a fact. But there is nothing about human trafficking, there is nothing about all that stuff that Russians are talking about, because every single time we see news that touch us emotionally, that demoralize us and everything else, there is a very, very high chance that this update was made by Russians, because we know that Russians never produce motivational content. It's very, very important to remember. 5UFO BBC is still pro-Russian. I don't think that they are pro-Russian, but the very fact that this update was never published by BBC, right? What is shared in the media is literally a fake report with the BBC logo on it and stuff like that, because Russians do that all the time. Germans are also responsible for some car accidents here. I can actually confirm, because I am that very, very dude who was crashed into by local Germans. Yeah, luckily without any serious consequence. But it was kind of fun. Did I tell you the story? So, like, my car is driving down the road. There is another car that that drives like towards it and starts like turning this way and stops. I keep driving, and the dude decides to literally drive back. So he kind of pushed me, not like we crashed, because he was like literally reversing very, very slowly and just bumped me. There was nothing, all right, like no damage, nothing like that, neither to my car nor his car. But that's again one of the examples. It's not necessarily, to blame only Ukrainians for all the car accidents in Germany. I'm just telling you the facts to be objective, right? BBC never published real Russian losses. BBC, because it's a British broadcasting company, they publish the updates based on the information from the British intelligence agency. Okay, British intelligence agency have their own data. Ukrainians report what we have based on our observations. But because nowadays the drone warfare is very, very transparent, basically every single strike is recorded. You can see it. And there's this very, very big database available, I think, for everybody. I will check it for you, my friends. So it's available online, so you can literally see, and if you're lucky, identify every Russian the generals who got improved on the Ukrainian soil. So apparently the British intelligence and other intelligence communities, they will be using those video pieces as well, and their data will be more accurate as well. Hey, hello, my friend. Hello, good to see you. The old lady did the same thing to me. Crazy how bad some people are on road. Sometimes it works like that. Sometimes it works like that not only with the cars, but also with like weapons in the army. Because the more you operate, for example, weapons, the more you just get accustomed to them, and the less you use your brain. I've seen so many times guys who are literally sleeping with their rifles, who knew their rifles like they know their kids, all right? They would just accidentally unload the rifle somewhere. And it works like absolutely automatically. Hey, dude, after a patrol, it was in the police in 2015. After the patrol, we go to the armory and we are giving out our weapons and we are unloading stuff, all right? And what you do, of course, you take that freaking Makarov pistol that I seriously, I hate with all my heart and soul. You take the Makarov pistol, you take out the magazine, you check out for the round in the chamber, and then there is like this long metal pipe, you put it inside, you press the trigger to make sure that everything's okay, and then you just give it back, all right, to the guy in the armory. And I literally see a guy who served already for quite a while, and he takes his Makarov, he sends the round into the chamber, and he shoots in that pipe, like easily, with such relaxed face, and everybody like, holy shit, like the shot sounds, and he's like, the smiling face I will never forget. Same with the cars, like we're driving the cars all the time, and we spend a lot of time there. Literally, our brain doesn't even participate in the process. That is why such things happen every single time. Every single time I drive my car, I have to freaking slap myself and remind myself, all right, dude, be concentrated, be anxious, freaking look everywhere, 360 degrees. Like, every time I get out of my car, I'm like this, I'm shaking because, I'm involved, I participate in this. Because it's important, all right? Because I had several cases like that. I ran a red light while people were crossing. And I'm literally driving down the road, I see the red light, I see people crossing, I'm like, why the fuck are they crossing? So I just ran the light, and then I realized that it was a light for me, actually, not for them. Like, you gotta be always aware and conscious, because that is extremely important. That's not important, that is lethally important, all right? Яка моя улюблена зброя? My favorite weapon would be the weapon I know the best. It's AK, probably. Like my super favorite weapon would probably be AR-10. We had UAR-10 version in Ukraine. Basically same stuff, only Ukraine produced. That one was good. But the weapon I know most is literally AK. Because I spent 10 years with AKs, either AKM or AK-74. Not because it's the best weapon in Ukraine or in the world, but literally because I know it best and I can operate it well. I borrowed my aunt's truck and had to drive through downtown Seattle. Very anxious situation. The very anxious situation I encountered was, thank God I didn't drive, but it's in Italy. The way people drive in Italy, it requires a lot of skills and a lot of, I don't know, like intuition, like sixth sense or something like that. A dream tonight. 2 nights ago, I met Dennis in a cafe in Germany and told him he's in my top 3 of Ukrainian YouTubers. I corrected and said he's my top 10 Starsky. Oh my god. Thank you so much, my friend. Thank you for your feedback. One of our friends there in the commentaries said that they rely on me in terms of this information, the information of on Ukraine and everything else, and I had to remind that please don't rely on me, I make mistakes myself. We gotta always have critical thinking, but if we make a mistake, all right, you can always blame me, okay? You have such right. Because, for example, I lost a 10 euro bet on that Bella 1/Marinera ship that was captured by the American Spetsnaz, all right, so I admit it, all right. So, Oreshnik missile with 6 warhead, totally empty of an explosive materials. They kind of hit, from what we know, they kind of hit an air factory, air production facility, all right, aircrafts related stuff, using that shit. So instead of using a cruise missile or like any other ballistic missile like Iskander or whatever, they decided to use the ICBM. People sometimes correct me that it's IRBM instead, but the fact is Russians created this ICBM that would not violate the agreement between the United States, which, by the way, doesn't work anymore. So de facto, that is ICBM, de jure, that is basically IRBM. Doesn't matter much. One thing I wanted to share with you, my friends, you would find it very, very interesting. You know that the Oreshnik missile is launched from Kapustin Yar in Russia. Right? What is Kapustin Yar? That is basically a settlement with a big training ground, which serves as a launch platform for those missiles. Apparently, when we think about the super modern weapons like Oreshnik and stuff like that, that has an impressive speed of like Mach 13, I don't know. When we think about that, in most cases we imagine some sort of, this high-tech place, this area populated by graduates of Polytechnical University of Uсть-Pizduysk that are working on super modern weapons. I have to tell you the truth, my friends, that is not the case. That is literally the place called Kapustin Yar in the Terrorist Federation. Basically, this man says that he has less rights than stray dogs. All right. Who is Astrakhan Sever? Yeah, picture made by Astrakhan Sever. Not even a Ukrainian community. That is literally something that comes from the Russian media themselves. And at the same time, I don't know why should stray dogs have less rights than human, but apparently because he's Russian, that's the truth. So that is Akhtubinsky rayon, that is literally Kapustin Yar. You can see that Ukraine used its dirty bomb on the Russian roads, all right? And if you take a look at this amazing Russian settlements, all right, it looks like Ukraine was bombing this place with dirty bombs for at least a decade, I think. So that is literally Kapustin Yar, the place where Russians are launching their super modern ICBMs, IRBMs, Oreshnik, all that stuff goes straight from this place. That is absolutely amazing. That's just so you had some kind of picture, all right, what exactly Russian world looks like and why it's so freaking funny. Yeah, but the funniest thing that you probably don't know when you look at this picture, like Donald Trump blames Obama for every tragedy in the United States, every single thing that happens in the United States, Donald Trump blames Obama. So Russians also blame Obama. Russians actually discuss in their social media, well, I'm joking, but, Russians often discuss in their social media that shed that you can currently observe on your screens, that is literally because of Obama and now Trump, because when Russians go to sleep, first it was Obama who would literally parachute over Russia and steal the asphalt, steal the tarmac from their roads, and now basically that's what President Trump is doing. He's literally parachuting over Russia, throws the empty syringes on the children playgrounds, poops on the children's slides, and in the Russian multi-story buildings on the staircases, and sometimes that evil President Donald Trump literally crawls into Russian bedrooms and poops in the Russian pants, all right, while the Russians are wearing them without them even noticing. So they wake up, they look, oh shit, that fucking Donald Trump did it. That's literally the Russian mentality, just so you know, all right? I'm not even joking. Wish I was. As of Iran, currently there is this massive protest that keeps growing. All right. What we know at this point, there were several high-ranked police officers already that said that they don't support Khamenei and his regime. There are rumors coming from the Iranian military who also say that they are expecting the protests to succeed. There are actually like direct messages coming from Donald Trump, from the White House, Elon Musk, that they support the resistance in Iran. The help is already halfway there and everything will be fine. The world supports Iran, and of course Ukrainians support Iran. The only country Donald Trump doesn't support much is of course Ukraine, because Ukrainians are fighting against his good friend Putin. Let's be realistic, all right? Whenever you see their freedom to Iran and everything else, I'm not jelly, frankly speaking. I root for Iranian people. You know, my lady is Iranian as well. But what we can't really see is the same dedication when we talk about Ukraine. All right, for like some unknown reason, for reasons I don't really understand. I don't really see a lot of commentaries coming from, you know, like people wearing red hats. Like, why do we support Iran so much? That's your shit. Fuck you, Iran, all right? We have nothing in common, all right? Because me personally, I've seen hundreds of such commentaries addressed to Ukraine. Like, Ukrainians, we are Americans here on our continents. You are Ukrainians there on your continents. Fight your own war, okay? We have nothing to do with you guys. Just forget about us. But when it comes to Iran, they are fucking happy because their shining idol told them fucking root for Iran, alright? Anyways, I'm happy that they can at least root for another nation, not white, blue-eyed Aryans, alright, but somebody else. This makes me fucking absolutely happy. Maybe it will finally fix their racism at some point, which I'm very, very much looking forward. So, returning to Iran, me as a Ukrainian, I completely enjoy watching this protest. I support the protesters myself. For one specific reason, right? Okay, for many specific reasons. Yes, my lady is Iranian, as you probably know. People of Iran, they are absolutely nice people. If you have Persian friends, you know what I'm saying, all right? If you ever had a conversation with any Iranian, you probably know what I'm saying. But besides all that, Iran is known for sending Shahed drones to Ukraine through Russia, all right? Through Russia. They sell Shahed drones to Russia. Russia launches them at Ukraine, striking Ukrainian facilities, striking houses, and currently Russians are producing those Shahed drones on the Russian territory themselves, all right? They called them Gerain 2, Gerain 2. If this protest succeeds, I will be extremely happy to see a lot of war criminals of the Khamenei regime actually enjoying, you know, their time somewhere either in Iranian or Ukrainian prison. I think that according to the law, they will be tried in Iran the way it's usually done, all right? They will be tried in Iran. Of course, Ukraine will try to extradite them to Ukraine, but according to the international law, it's not the case. In most cases, the criminals are tried in the country they come from, all right? But, of course, we will see such trials. We will see such things taking place, which will be another confirmation that justice always prevails, and all the war criminals, regardless if they come from Iran or if they come from any other country or terrorist federation, you name it, the criminals will always face responsibility. And that is why I'm also rooting for those Iranian protesters so much. What we know at this point, we know, of course, that internet doesn't work. The Starlink terminals that were smuggled to Iran, they kind of work and they help the Iranian protesters to communicate, send all the videos. We know that the number of people who lost their lives are more than 50, and majority of them are, of course, civilians, because literally Iranian guards opened fire, machine gun fire on the protesters. One of the anonymous doctors in his interview to Time, as far as I remember, said that he knows about at least 217 dead civilians that were brought to the hospitals of Tehran, and later they were moved out and disappear, right? They were moved out by the Iranian government. But that is information that, again, I cannot confirm. On the other hand, looking at the scale of those protests and looking at the aggressiveness, looking at the intensity of resistance, right, we can say that that can actually be the case. Comparing, for example, to our revolution in 2014, we had more than 100 people that were shot in one day. But that was the last day of Yanukovych's regime. All right. So we will see. Khamenei himself, the bloody murderer and dictator, just to remind you, Khamenei was participant of the so-called Islamic Revolution. It's where far-left communists somehow magically united with the far-right Ayatollahs and basically removed the king. Iran turned, due to all that stuff, Iran eventually turned into a terrorist country, recognized terrorist regime, which of course makes a lot of common people there on the streets absolutely dissatisfied with that, because from Iran that everyone respected, everyone loved, and had this sympathy towards the Iranian people, from this Iran it turned into a terrorist regime, basically like Russia is nowadays. And that is why we can see something that we will never see in Russia, for example. All right, actually people fighting against all this shit, all this terrorism, all this corruption, fighting for their welfare on the streets. Something that Russians are freaking incapable of doing because they're fucking zombies, all right? Let's be realistic. What else do we know? We know that Shahzadeh Reza Pahlavi, the prince of the king, that was removed in 1979, he says that he is supporting his people, he wants the revolution to succeed and everything else, but his main mission is not to restore the monarchy. His main mission is to make sure that democracy in Iran prevails and they have democratic elections, they can democratically elect their presidents and their government and stuff like that. Which I can only respect, because it would be absolutely ridiculous if, he returned to Iran and said, like, all right, let's have a king, all right? That would be absolutely freaking insane. So the protesters are attacking different police stations, different bases of revolutionary guards, the bloody murderers, all right. Here you can see one of the protesters holding the photo of this prince. Okay. Again, speaking of him, different opinions in Iran. On one hand, of course, there is quite a few Iranians who support return of Prince Pahlavi. At the same time, there are again quite a few people who don't really like him because all this time while they were suffering in Iran, he was chilling in the United States. So I can understand them too. And also at the same time, again, there's quite a few people who don't really like the way, for example, the White House is, trying to represent all this, because literally last year, United States was bombing Iran, and today they say, yay, we love you so much. Of course, again, not many Iranian people. I'm just retransmitting what I hear from different people there, all right? At least what I heard before they lost internet. A lot of people actually say that, guys, thank you so much for your support. We don't really believe that Donald Trump is doing that because he loves Iranians so much. Okay, we understand that we are a rich country with plenty of oil. So we will keep that in mind. That's, again, just a thing from real Iranian people. Let's check the next update that we have. This one is actually kind of cringy because that's, for example, the statistics from the Russian internet. I will translate this one for you. So Russians published the statistics of the most visited websites by Russians, all right? The most frequent search results. That's the proper way to put it. So on the first place, you probably think, okay, they check the Vladimir Putin's resources every single time and stuff like that. No. So on the first place is Pasha Mechanic. Pasha Mechanic was a Russian rapper who actually died from OD last year, and he is more popular than Vladimir Putin. On the third place, there's Tigran Keosayan. Remember the chief of Russian propaganda channel Russia Today, Margarita Simonyan. Tigran Keosayan was the dude who, as soon as this Russian invasion of Ukraine started, he was saying, see you in Kyiv in 2 days. Yeah, so he ended up in the wooden box last year because karma is a bitch, it always works. And on the fourth place in our rating is Donald Trump unexpectedly. On the sixth place, Maniac Andrei Chikatilo. That is literally like Charles Manson, only multiplied by 10. And on 14th place, there's Volodymyr Zelensky. And Adolf Eichmann on 19th place in Russia. That is so interesting. Absolutely. But who knows? The Next Alive, the news outlet, actually says that we still hope that in 2026 the web page of Vladimir Putin will become the leader of this chart one more time, because as we can see, Russians are more interested in dead people than they're interested in the living ones, which I can only confirm and sign under this statement. Октябрьский, Volgogradskaya Oblast, the Zhutovskaya oil refinery in the terrorist Russian Federation is on fire. One more time. Not sure if it's reckless smoking or literally celebration of Orthodox Christmas. Could be both, but this stuff is burning, and making us very, very happy. Just to remind you, yesterday we talked about the most recent statistics on the Ukrainian strikes on the Russian oil industry, and it was reported that in 2025 Ukraine conducted at least 73 strikes against 28 Russian oil refineries, oil storages, oil factories, oil processing facilities, according to Forbes. And it was reported that the overall capacity of those attacked objects is approximately 219 million tons of oil per year, which is approximately 2/3 of all the Russian oil capacity, just so you could understand the picture, all right? So, Ukraine definitely have cards. I tell you that. Belgorod keeps suffering there in the poor terrorist federation because the people, first of all, we can see a lot of freaking fuel queues. That is the recent footage. That is literally as of yesterday, right? We can see that Russians have so much fuel over there in the queue. What is the price? The price is, I cannot see it unfortunately. Wait a minute. 60 rubles, 65 rubles, 95th or 92nd. Diesel is more expensive. 98th is 86.60. That is approximately 8 cents a liter. Approximately, all right. Yeah, nice. So people in Russia are trying to store as much fuel as possible, again, for the reasons I mentioned above, because they are freaking losing it. You can see they're trying to fuel their tanks, fuel all sorts of, how do you call them? Those fuel containing tanks, I don't know. What the hell is that? That, to me, that looks like a Russian queue in the supermarket where they can get a bunch of water. Turns out that they lost their water supply as well. Because, why, you might ask? Why did Russians lose their supply of water in Belgorod? And the reason for that is because since 2022, they were shelling Ukraine from Belgorod every single fucking day. They were launching their ballistic missiles, they were launching their Shahed drones. They basically use Belgorod as their launch platform for all that shit. And in 2025 and 2026, Karma said fucking enough, alright? So, just a tiny update from Belgorod. Again, oil drum, thank you so much. Oh my god, I needed this one. Oil drum, how could I forget? I gotta practice more. Literally. We have a Russian fan there in the chat who asks in Russian language, hoping that we don't understand this chat, all right? So I spent some time learning, the dog language. You probably don't know that about me. Where are we finding this? He asks, dear gentlemen, dear English-speaking people from around the world. That is literally Belgorod, my dear Russian friend. Check this out, all right? Or otherwise, go there yourself, make a video from any Russian gas station and prove us that we are wrong. So that's another one. So good that Russians are watching us as well. I miss Russian bots there in the chat, because, when we have Russians in the chat, it means that what we are saying here is important. I don't see them often these days, which makes me very, very upset. The plastic bottle cult. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter if they drink out of it or smoke it. It works both ways. What else? So that is air defense system Tempest that is used by the Ukrainian center group. All right. Північне військове командування. Why is it called center? Anyways, you can see this amazing machine here used by the armed forces of Ukraine to intercept the Russian drones, and looks like it works. So this one is one of the most advanced, as far as I can say. The very complex was presented in Washington. It was showcased on the military exhibition in 2025. Way to go. All right. Just a tiny picture. All right. This is what the map of the drone strike looked like. Tonight, those are good Ukrainian drones heading towards Volgograd, Volgodonsk, Rostov-na-Donu, and all those filthy freaking places. They also attacked quite a few facilities on the temporarily occupied Crimea. But one thing that Russians were absolutely mad about yesterday was the way the drones attacked Voroniezh, because if you check out this direction, it turns out that they hit them from behind somehow. I literally don't understand. The Russians were very, very mad yesterday in the social media. They were saying, like, how come Voroniezh is attacked by the drones? We were so prepared and stuff like that. So if they take at least 25% of the air defense protecting Putin's house and disseminate them around their critical infrastructure, they will have, of course, much more chance, like 3 times more chance to deflect Ukrainian drones. But of course it will never happen, because majority of the Russian air defense is currently protecting the most important things in Russia. That is literally Putin's house in Valdai and a bunch of oil refineries that feed Putin so he can afford that house in Valdai. That's reality. There was footage, right? There was footage in the Russian media yesterday, in the Russian social media. Actually, you will see it a lot today, I think. You will see it everywhere in the media, especially around, like mega people. They will be sharing those videos saying, look at terrorist Ukrainian drones attacking Russian residential buildings. Because as it turned out, in Voroniezh, I'm not sure if Russians fucked Voroniezh themselves like they always do, but there was a footage of Ukrainian drone hitting a Russian building in Voroniezh, and the only reason it happened was literally because they attempted to suppress the GPS signal and directed the good Ukrainian drone straight into a residential building. Happens every single time. That's reason number 1. Reason number 2 is karma, of course, all right? Because if you are waging a war in a foreign country, killing plenty of civilian people there, you can expect that at some point some accidents start happening on your territory as well. So the other hand, of course, Russians are not Iranians. They primarily support their terrorist regime, and they would prefer, Ukrainian drones striking their houses instead of, just letting them fly where they're flying. What else? This stuff that I'm gonna show you is actually really, really cute, my friends. But first, let me take a sip. Right, I pressed the like button and it turned 238. Jesus, that's a lot. It's but a scratch. Yeah, absolutely. My my message was banned. How come, Steven? Why? What did you say? How can any Russian feel superior? It's clear that they're losing everything. Allies, ships, people, money, experts, underwear, and common sense. I think they've lost in like 1847. All right. Karma is a bitch 100%. 100%. It always works. Even if it doesn't involve, angry guys with drones or missiles or rifles or fists. Sometimes it just works by itself in the ways we cannot explain. Kia ora, my friends. Hello, hello. Hello to beautiful New Zealand, I suspect. And the Russian city of Chlamydia. Beautiful Russian city of Uсть-Пиздюйsk. That is the legendary city in Russia. All the best people in Russia come from Uсть-Пиздюйsk. And they go there after they die. If a Russian person behaved bad, and then he or she died, in the next life they are born in Russia one more time. The town clearly doesn't have toilets. I can tell. I can tell. Morgan, how are you? Great having you live, my friend. Great having you live here. I had a Russian professor. I withdrew from the class and got a refund. Was bragging about how many students he failed. That's a good one. Russians think they're Russians think their she doesn't stink because it smells like home. I see what we hear. Yeah. All right. I think they are feeling less superior right now. I think they kind of do. But again, it's because they have a lot of propaganda that actually tells them everything is fine. All the drones like flying over your houses. That's actually a good thing, right? Good thing to see. It means how great we are. Yeah. Guten Tag, wie geht's dir? That is wie, not she, actually. Wie geht's? Es geht, alles gut. Alles gut, I promise. Everything's fine. You can say Mahlzeit now in Germany. Yeah. My God, yesterday I had... Okay, we will talk about this in the food section just a bit later. But I had like the biggest dinner in my life yesterday. It was impressive. Never forget the promise, continue to spread the word. We as Americans promise to protect Ukraine. Betty, I always remember this. Finding how Western it is moved to Russia for traditional family shared values, only to understand that they have no right and can't even get an apartment. On the other hand, they can pretty much enjoy, like, that stuff. Again, quoting Tucker Carlson, or almost quoting Tucker Carlson, Americans should learn from Russians. All right, my dear American friends, you probably didn't know that, but you have to learn that shit, according to Tucker Carlson. Like that shit. You actually have to learn that from amazing Russian people, because where else will you find that beauty? Learn that from Russians. Why not? Also, don't forget to learn from Russians things like stealing toilets, for example, right? And other ugly things, because in Tucker Carlson's opinion, that is very, very important. All right. So let me take one more sip, and I will show you something very, very cute that I promise. All right. Oh my God, what is that? When you live in a pig pen, you don't notice the smell. By the way, my friend, I can confirm that. Because 2019 and 2020, we were in Dolomitne, Svitlodarsk, all right, Svitlodarsk area. In Dolomitne, I think in Dolomitne. In Dolomitne, they had the biggest pig farm ever, all right? And we were located in the area, so they have a pig farm. Not only you can enjoy, amazing fragrance coming from the pig farm itself, but they also had a crematorium. And the reason they had a crematorium is because they for example, they take a pig, they disassemble the pig, and they throw everything that we don't eat into the crematorium. So it was working 24/7. And the smell was amazing. Like if you are in the base camp and the guys from the pig farm arrive, you can tell like 100 meters away. And I spent probably like maybe a month at that pig farm, and the sleeping bag that I have since the time still freaking stinks. Okay, it's still freaking, when I open it, I can feel it. I immediately have a lot of, like flashbacks, all those amazing memories and stuff immediately just emerge in front of my eyes. That's just so good. But because Russians knew that we were staying there at the pig farm, and you know that Russians are absolutely crazy on the glorious fight of their grandparents against Nazi Germany, but also Nazi United States, Nazi France, Nazi UK, Nazi whatever, Nazi world, Nazi Australia, and stuff like that. So to Russians, basically everyone is Nazi. And because they knew that we were staying there at the pig farm, they called us, the guys at the pig farm, they called us the Schweinreich, and they also called the platoon commander at this pig farm, they called him Schweinführer, which every single time we were listening to their like radio communication, we would freaking just almost die from laughter. So Slava России, we have amazing commentary. That is exactly what I say when I take a shit, all right? Just to remind myself that you can only say Slava России in the toilet when you poop. That's the only place, all right? Just to keep in mind. But it's very good that we have you here on our streams, because you will either discover some new amazing things, all right, that is called truth, all right, besides the Russian disinformation, all we will enjoy watching you running around with the smoking rear. That's, again, that is something that all Ukrainians and general people around the world enjoy. So we have quite a few Russian Z-generals watching us right now, but also I really, really hope at least several Russian citizens. And before I continue to show you something cute that I promised, just a tiny question to the Russians there in the chat, if they can answer, all right? How the encircling of Ukrainian troops in Pokrovsk going since November? Just asking. I just really, really want to know. And also, can they explain us about their cavalry? Are Russians on the horses now considered like a separate branch of the Russian army, or is just situational? Again, something I'd really like them to explain. So, you know about the Ukrainian invincibility points. We talked about that. But what you don't know is Ukrainian invincibility wagons, all right? Because that stuff is a train. So currently in Ukraine, you can see such invincibility wagons in Ukrainian trains where you can literally bring your family, all right? Get some sort of snack, coffee, tea, whatever. That guy, by the way, check out what he has, what he has on his back. So, this is the patch, the epaulet, all right, of a senior lieutenant, all right, the rank above the lieutenant. Apparently he's dead, maybe. Either his daddy or his mommy or some of his relatives, I don't know. So that is the Uber Lieutenant patch. This one is Privatbank patch, which is extremely freaking funny, but again, in Ukraine, everyone is currently fighting with what we have and where we can, all right? So that is Privatbank. This one, I just cannot recognize. Okay, I need to see it more up close. This one to me looks either Security Service of Ukraine, by the way, the combat patch, or the Armed Forces in general, or the General Staff, or the Air Force. Again, I need to see it up close, but I can see the cross. So yeah, that is a patch of Ukrainian Armed Forces. That is so cute. Jesus. Yeah. Here you can see people having a snack, coffee, those pasties and stuff, and generally, you know, trying to hide from the cold, trying to charge their stuff, because yes, on the invincibility train you can also charge your gadgets, you can watch TV in case there's a shortage, there's a lot of like toys to play if you're with the kids, so basically you can spend some quality time in warmth, all right, with your that's the dude with the bag having a stack. From what I can tell, I think that is the Kyiv electric train. In Kyiv we have this high-speed train that goes around the capital both ways, and it's very reliable and fast if you want to get somewhere. I used it myself many times. In my civilian life, I used that one, and it looks to me like that station over there very much familiar. They all look pretty similar, but still. Yeah. And of course, looking at this, you can see that people are able to charge their gadgets, their phones, their power banks while on board of this train. That's cute. Invincibility wagon, my friends, because invincibility was born in Ukraine while Russians were snatching toilets. Why do Russians snatch toilets if they don't have fucking sewer? That is something that I still cannot really understand. Maybe they just want to install the toilet somewhere, like on the kitchen, for example, for everyone to see. It's like when they have guests to drink vodka and play balalaika, and then you invite them inside, and they go like, "Wow, what is that?" And there's like a pooper from Irpin somewhere, like in your hallway, and you go like, Afanasy, that is an art installation, all right, that our nephews snatched from like Irpin or Hostomel, all right, and they go, holy shit, what can we do with this stuff? We go like, we can just pour vodka and drink straight out of it, all right. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. I'm really not sure. If you know, please let me know there in the comments. Обережно двері зачиняються. Yeah, обережно is a very important word to learn in Ukraine. I guess. We really are international. What coffee are you drinking? The Jacob's coffee. We talked about Jacob's coffee the other day. And it turned out that Jacob's coffee is not shipped or not sold in the United States. Can you believe this? I thought it was like international thing. Because an apple box with a hole in it sucks. Yeah, 100%. Russians steal toilets to brew their coffee and vodka. For vomiting? Could be, because another grandma in Hostomel actually told me how Russians used a bathtub as like toilet, all right, and they literally collected all the shit in the bathtub. I don't know why. Maybe they wanted to like take bath in that stuff. I have no idea. I would not be surprised. Have you got any news of the latest strike on the luxury apartments in Russia? So the recent news about that is literally that Russians tried to suppress good Ukrainian drones with their electronic warfare shit, and they kind of intercepted Ukrainian drones using their houses. Just like that. Another update that I've heard about this one was that literally Karma said, I've had enough. The Russians lack toilet technology. With sanctions, you cannot get new toilets, you cannot get plumbing and stuff like that 100%. Face masks. Of course. I don't know much about that stuff, but I believe that maybe some of the Russians are more acquainted with, like making their skin look good. It helps to identify them later, We don't have Jacob's coffee in Denmark as well. Too bad. Wait a minute. DK, do you mean Denmark or do you mean like some of the American states? Because I'm lost. That is strange to hear, actually, because I've seen Jacobs basically everywhere in our part of Europe, plus in Germany. And I cannot say that Jacobs is very, very widespread in Germany, but you can buy it anywhere. But, Denmark, yes. So, really? No Jacobs in Denmark? That is so strange. I don't know. But maybe I'm surprised because, again, that's like, difference in cultures. In Ukraine, we have dried fish. Okay, the dried fish that is considered a snack that you can buy together with beer, for example, when you're gathering somewhere with your friends. You can have dried fish, and it's like very dry. It's so dry, so you can literally, hammer the nails using one. And in Ukraine, it's everywhere. Considering also the fact that we have plenty of rivers, we have access to the sea. In Ukraine, it's everywhere. I went to Poland, I bought a beer, and I'm like looking around the snack section, there's only sausages, and there's no fish at all. I'm like, what the hell? Why? So it turns out that our neighbors, even despite the fact that we're literally neighbors, all right, in Poland, they don't do that. They don't make dried fish because it's literally not in their culture, all right? So you can be very, very close. You can neighbor all sorts of people, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have like same everything, all right? But I was impressed actually. I didn't know about that. I had to order fish from my friends in Ukraine. They sent me fish, and I was so happy. It was like 2014. I was so happy, so I started munching that fish, and I broke my corner tooth in half. And it was like that until 2023. When my broken tooth finally decided to start aching. And that was nasty, my friends. What's so big about Jacob's coffee? It's good. Like people are asking what's the good instant coffee, and Jacob's, by the way, it's a brand. Like it's not only instant coffee, it's also like the beans, the powder, the brewed coffee as well, right? But Jacob's is instantly considered an example of good instant coffee. So if you want this, you can, if you want to try, if you're looking for a good coffee and you don't know what to pick Jacob's, you will never be wrong, all right? Is Ukraine fishing better than Poland? I have no idea, because both Ukraine and Poland have access to the sea. But it's just in Ukraine we do that stuff. We have the dried fish as a snack, literally. It's like very salty and very dry. In Poland, they don't do that. They prefer things like sausages, smoked sausages, those what they call cabanos. What kind of fish? Literally whatever you can catch, all right? In the rivers, that's... I don't know how to call them in English, I'm sorry. Brass, I think, or bass? Bass. Carp, yes, carp as well. All that stuff, like whatever you can catch in the river, you can just dry it with salt. And the same with the sea fish, like anything. We just dry all sort of fish. Dried fish is also a popular drinking snack in Japan, but it's not hard enough to pound nails. Well, it depends. Sometimes we don't dry it that much. Of course, it's better if it's completely dry. You can preserve it for a longer period of time, but I personally prefer it very, very dry. At least I did before I broke my tooth. Pike, yes, pike can be dried as well. Fish jerky, yes, that's what I call it. Yes, absolutely. I have opinions on fish, so I will not engage much. I don't blame you. I completely respect your choice. Me personally, I'm crazy about fish. Absolutely. The best coffee is from beans crapped out by civets? Civets? Did you say? What? Dried fish drink. Dried fish with the drink. I mean, dried fish used as a snack. Not like drink made out of dried fish. I hope, dear Japanese friends. Fish is yummy. Do you monitor mercury levels? We do. We have a service. We have a state service that actually monitors the radiation levels, the mercury levels, and things like that. Can you explain how to pronounce Przewalski like the wild horse? Are the first letters silent? It's Przewalski. It's almost like Przewalski, but without E in the beginning. Przewalski. To those who don't know, there is a Przewalski horse. That horse species is widespread in Chernobyl area because there's no people there and they thrive. And they were considered extinct at some point, but in the exclusion zone, they thrive, and there's like thousands of them already, as far as I remember. Kartoffel или бутерброд? Oh my god. Kartoffel mit Butterbrot. In Ukraine, you pronounce everything as it reads. Yes, absolutely. So, what's wrong with your language? It's not the language, it's the last name. Przewalski is the last name, it's not the language. So, returning to the language, we pronounce everything as it reads, all right? And again, that is a big difference between, for example, Ukrainian and Russian language, because in Ukrainian language, when you say milk, all right, moloko, you read it as moloko because that's what the text reads. In Russian, it would be malako because they are just so special, all right. I love Starsky Sandy. My friend, thank you so much. First of all, thanks for the membership. And secondly, we are all a bit, I cannot say insane, but we are all a bit cuckoo, all right? Especially after the February 2022. Especially people who served a lot. I'm saying this as someone who has just a tiny experience. Yes, Japanese dried fish is kind of like fish jerky. Yeah, marinated in soy sauce and sweet marine, sometimes sprinkled with sesame seeds. Oh my god, I can imagine. Imagining this, I can already tell what it tastes like, alright? Я люблю українську мову. Oh my god, that's so cool to know. Yeah, generally, if you want to be understood by majority of Eastern Europeans, learn Ukrainian, you will not be wrong, right? First of all, because when you hear Russian, it always makes people, look sideways at you, give you a sideways look, how you call it. And also, in many cases, it always provokes some other specific people, it provokes their instincts, right? Like either throw something at you or literally shoot at you. because they already have this reaction to the Russian language, which again I can completely understand. So learn Ukrainian and everything will be fine. You will be understood by Belarusians, by Polish people 100%. You will be understood by Czechs, by Slovaks, Bulgarians, pretty much by everyone, Slovenians even, I think. And Bosniaks, Croatians. So all the good people will be able to understand you. I mean, in our part of the world. How does this chat always end as a food talk? Thank you for the reminder, my friend, because we're not there yet, all right? We still have just a couple of updates. Real quick, so Russian monitors, Russian radar, Rossosisia, was reporting the threat in Kaluzhskaya, Smolenskaya Oblast, also Tver, Moskovskaya Oblast, even at night. They were also reporting the my God, cruise missiles, Pskov, Bryansk, high-speed targets, I don't know. This one, I will scroll just a bit. So one thing that I would also want to talk about, this is a Russian soldier of the Russian army with the Ukrainian passport. Why do we have it here? So the reason for that is because Russia that occupied Donbass, occupied Crimea, and occupied quite a few Ukrainian territories in 2022, they already recruit the local people, the local Ukrainians. Technically, they are Ukrainians. De jure, they are Ukrainians. They already recruit them in the Russian army or force them into the Russian army and send them to fight against Ukraine, the place they were born at, all right? That is another sort of Russian war crimes, just for you to remember. And this wasn't a body exchange because that's basically a Ukrainian who was living, all right, on the Russia-occupied territory, recruited or forced into the Russian army and sent into a meat assault. Again, this is just the same sort of crime as, you know, when Russians are stealing Ukrainian kids, send them to the military camps, indoctrinate them, teach them how to use weapons, how to attack trenches and stuff like that. So that is just another reminder that Russia is actually a terrorist regime, recruited or conscripted, either or. All right. So it's just another reminder that Russian terrorist regime that, by the way, Tucker Carlson admires so much, and he wants United States to learn from Russians, you know, things like that. You will never learn anything good from the terrorist Russian regime. And one interesting update that I also wanted to mention is that Terrorist Federation, for the very first time, used its Giran 5 attack drone against Ukraine. So what we know so far is that the Russians claim that the range of this drone is approximately 1,000 kilometers, and the mass of the warhead is approximately 90 kilograms or 200 pounds. They say that this drone can be equipped with air-to-air missiles like R-73, and if you take a closer look at it, you might immediately notice that this stuff, even though it looks like it was actually designed in mortar, all right, but for example, this part actually reminds of Ukrainian Flamingo just a bit, because everything new in Russia is successfully snatched old from other countries. So this was the final update. I can see some more updates coming from Chechnya, actually. So according to the Ukrainian military intelligence, Ramzan Kadyrov is in the hospital because his kidneys died. His kidneys decided to retire or expire. I have no idea. Let's talk immediately who can take his place, all right, in case or when he becomes good, when he becomes improved, all right, by his own kidneys. Do you want to install the updates now or try tonight? Friends, let me know if you want my computer to install the updates right now or tonight. I think no, you have no chance. So, returning to Ramzan Kadyrov, who can take his place? So, among the most possible candidates to take his place is Magomed Daudov, Lapti Aladina, you know that dude, that cringy one, and his older son Ahmad. It's so funny, you know, so funny to call your son to honor the T Ahmad. I have no idea how exactly it works. Yeah, like, you know, the Kadyrovites say, Ahmad is power. Ahmad is a fucking T. What are you talking about? His 17-year-old son is ready. Yeah, absolutely. He's like, he showed his impressive skills to Putin and stuff, and install Linux. Why would I install Linux instead of Mac OS? I wouldn't do that. Sauron, yeah, another one. But Sauron is already ruling Russia, so. Okay, guys, let's talk about food. I promised. So yesterday, as I already mentioned, I had the biggest freaking doner in my entire career. And though it might not actually look big, but it kind of is. Yeah, there it is. There is my lady there sitting on the background. She had some kind of soup. Yeah, that is a freaking, like, that plate is like my two heads, all right? So it was, my God, it was just so good. I was so happy. In the beginning, we thought about going somewhere to, like, I don't know, like sushi place or something, and then just my lady said, listen to your woman, let's go have dinner, and I never regret this choice. I didn't know you were a career doner eating. I eat doner to live, all right? Like, people ask, what do you do for a living? And that's actually what I do for a living. Like, literally, I eat for a living. Yeah, that one is freaking huge. And it was like proper, you know? Like with proper sauce, with all the ingredients, with the salad, with pommes. Oh my God. I'm drooling looking at it because I had no breakfast today. And same here, my friend. Food again, we will never have a peace plan but a freaking menu list. I agree. But let's talk about the Maslow pyramid, you know. That's what it looks like. The army is marching on its stomach. and the talking heads are talking with their stomach. All right. Do you miss shashlik? I actually do. The last time I had shashlik was in that horrible, horrible Russian place here, which I didn't know that it was Russian because they positioned themselves as Eastern European. So I had shashlik, it was kind of fine, and then I caught some sort of infection from that place because my whole mouth was inflated. And I was in pain for several days. I think Starsky was hired by some European fast food chains and takeouts to raise their income. They don't need my help, my friend, because, for example, again, you find yourself sad and hungry on Christmas morning, especially on Sunday somewhere in the German downtown. Those guys will be the only guys who will save your life. They will save you from starvation, unlike anyone else, because they don't care. Literally, New Year's Eve, we want to buy something because my fridge is empty. I ate everything. We want to buy something. The only open place is a Vietnamese restaurant where they sell sushi. And it's like 7 p.m. New Year's Eve. They don't care. They just do their job. And that is why I respect them so much. Russia is not European. Europe doesn't want associated with garbage Russia. 100%. I would never want to be associated with anything disgusting, dangerous, stinking, and ridiculous like Russia. But at the same time, some very, very powerful people are not getting tired of calling them their friends, all right? Which is something I would never understand. When some very, very powerful dude we all know says that Putin is his very, very good friend, that is literally like saying that some freaking rapist is your good buddy, and you get along so well. I would never do that in my fucking life. I would never say that on public, at least. I would never be proud of being a friend of someone as ridiculous and dangerous and stinking and disgusting as a Russian dictator. But in that convenient bubble, all right, in the mind of that very, very powerful man from the United States, whose name I will not even mention, all right, in his mind, that actually makes him look big, all right, look important, that he's friend with murderers and rapists and stuff. There was a question, is Oreshnik as shitty as it seems to be? So actually, it depends. So why Oreshnik is so fast? It is so fast for a very simple reason. If it carries nukes, you have to be fast to break through the air defense. How precise is something that is flying at a speed of like Mach 10? Separated warheads, like how precise is it? Let's check the results of 2 strikes of this Oreshnik on Ukraine. First strike damaged a bunch of country houses located behind the military factory they apparently tried to strike. Second one damaged another military factory that will be repaired. They targeted military factory, but damaged some sort of either pump station or something like that will be repaired very, very fast in Lviv. just like a couple of days ago. So how effective is it? I have no idea. But very important thing, very important moment. Why did they do that? Okay, why did they use a freaking ICBM/IRBM? Why? What's the point? Were they tried to use this missile to destroy the target? Well, then they suck balls. The only reason they used that, again, is for to make the show of Joe Rogan a bit more full of people that would be running around screaming, nuclear apocalypse is tomorrow, right? The apocalypse is here, my friends. The end of the days. Russians are shooting like ICBMs. Ukrainians, stop fighting, please. Die, alright, because we are so much afraid. That is the only reason they use that. Okay, they use that because Russians are actually very, very desperate and panicking. That's the only reason. No reason for them to shoot that shit instead of like Caliber, Iskander, Shahed. Not a single reason, alright? They had absolutely no reason to do that, but they did. Because they wanted to spread panics. They wanted to show like, whoa, look at what we have, alright? Oreshnik propaganda missile, yeah, the missile of the mass disinformation. That's it. Putin is scared of Europe following US example of seizing Russian oil tankers. Yeah, absolutely. I wish, though, United States actually seized Russian tankers because, just to remind you, they were seizing Venezuelan tankers. Even though there were Russians on board, but technically they were not Russian tankers, they were Venezuelan tankers. I might be wrong, please tell me if I am, because the two tankers, at least that I know about, they were Venezuelan. I already said it somewhere, if Rogan was spooked by a warheadless Oreshnik, how could he ignore Iranian IRBM strikes on Tel Aviv? I don't know, maybe it's just because he doesn't follow the news as much as we do here, guys. Maybe that's the reason. I have no idea. I don't know Joe Rogan personally, thank God. And I don't know where he takes his information from. Good morning, Deborah. It's technically we can call it morning though, yeah. Joe has been the same for years. What is there to be disappointed in? Consistently an idiot pointing at shiny things. I agree on that. It's literally after 2022 we started understanding in Ukraine who Joe Rogan actually is, right? Because before 2022, majority of Ukrainian boys and men who understood English, they would be subscribed to Joe Rogan and watch Joe Rogan all the time, right? For different guests that he invited, and there are actually a lot of very interesting people. All right, that was way before we realized what sort of degenerate. I think we should find some new call sign for all those guys. What sort of Russian patriot Elon Musk is, all right? What sort of disinformation he spreads in his social media without fact-checking anything. Before we realized that quite a few people that we admired and enjoyed watching and listening turned out to be either absolutely complete degenerates or Russian patriots or literally Nazi, all right? But it's good that we have this understanding right now. The other day, somewhere in the commentaries, some dude was very, very much upset because I criticized Donald Trump, all right? And I just asked, all right, to clarify which exactly, the one who called my president a dictator, the one who blamed Ukraine for being fucking invaded, like that dude, and he called me like liberal instead. And I don't understand what is the connection between telling expressing the personal opinion and being liberal. If the right to express my personal opinion and fact check things makes me liberal, then most probably I am. I don't know. If not being a Nazi scum, a communist scum, white power scum makes me a liberal, then fuck, maybe that's a good thing. Russians call everyone who supports Ukraine, Russians call them Nazi, all right? Like if you're a British person or like Indian person supporting Ukraine, you are Nazi. Fuck, like if they call us like that, then fucking welcome to the club. I don't know all the beautiful people from around the world. That's like a very, very bad joke. I agree, but fuck Russian propaganda. Rogan is all over the place, has stuff you don't find outside of conspiracy circles. Holy shit. I know Rogan, spreading the conspiracies, especially about the aliens and stuff. That is something freaking amazing. Which, again, let's be realistic. Looking at the stars in the sky, you can imagine the amounts of planets where life can actually exist, even in our own galaxy, right? The number of such planets can be actually more than the number of sand grains on planet Earth, okay? Which makes it absolutely possible that, yeah, there's life, but we will never see it because of Fermi paradox. That's one of the reasons. Joe Rogan got famous eating worms and looking sort of buff on Fear Factor. Now he's still paid for bullshit. Holy shit. What about the Antifa organization? I will tell you what we know in Ukraine, all right? In Ukraine, we had an Antifa organization that was before the full-scale invasion. We had an Antifa, like they were calling themselves anti-fascists, but they had very, very strong connections with Russians, and Russians were literally paying them a lot. Then we had, for example, a tiny white power skinhead movement like in any other country that again had very strong connections with Russian chapter of Blood and Honor white power skinheads, which again tells us a lot. We have quite a few cases of literally Russian white power skinheads GTFOing from Russia to Ukraine somehow and emerging in like 2017, 2018 in Ukraine for reasons unknown, all right? Claiming that they were running from the Russian regime and now doing the same shit only on Ukrainian territory. So we have such cases as well. So I don't know about the Antifa because, again, in Ukraine, they were closely related to communists and stuff like that. But in my personal opinion, it's a very, very good position to be not part of organization, but just inside, all right, internally. Be anti-Nazi, anti-Fa, anti-communist, and generally speaking, anti-degenerate, because degenerates are very dangerous people. They do all sorts of shit. They tell you that drinking bad water makes you gay. Like, for real. One of them is currently responsible for like healthcare in the United States, as far as I remember. Tenet Media paid Team Pool $2 million to. The situation was like that. There was a fake oligarch that was designed by Russians. His identity was fake, all right? Who paid Team Pool and basically Tenet Media, but personally Team Pool, requested $100,000 for an episode. And through this fake identity, Russia Today literally would pump the money straight into the pocket of Tenet Media and Team Pool, and they would pump the disinformation designed in Moscow through Team Pool's mouth straight into American ears, all right? Literally, Russian-speaking editors are sitting in the office of Russia Today, all right? Иннокентий, что там у нас сегодня? Да, давай вот это вот запулим этим ебаным пиндосом, you know, talking about this stuff. And they literally send content to Tenet Media. Tenet Media go like, thank you for your money, we will do this, all right? And whatever the Russians are writing in the editorial rooms, all right, is delivered through Team Pool's mouth straight to hundreds of thousands, if not millions, American viewers that believe that Team Pool is the person who wrote the script. How cool is that? When is the stream over? I go make lunch then. I would actually go and make lunch myself. We can talk just a while, all right? Because, frankly speaking, I'm also very, very hungry talking about food. I thought that I would be torturing you, my friends, with those talks, but the only person I torture for real with all that is me. No one believes legacy media anymore, so Team Pool types get huge play with younger guys. Yeah, absolutely. On the other hand, it was always like that, right? Like since 1930s, we often hear that media are lying, you know. The only problem was that the media was among the few only available channels of information for the society. Now there's like anybody in TikTok considers themselves a media outlet, all right? And whatever they say is literally considered a fact. My sister married a health insurance salesman. I don't talk to them, but allegedly she said, at least RFK will fix things. Oh my God. He definitely will. My friends, I feel so sorry. I feel so sorry for your healthcare. Seriously, I have no idea what to do. We have a lot of simple-minded citizens in America. Social media has brainwashed a lot of Americans. But again, I don't blame the people, all right? Even though I say, like, degenerates are dangerous and everything else, the fact is I mostly joke, because the people are not the problem. The problem are actually terrorists sitting in a different country designing bullshit that they spread through your media. Imagine, for example, just for a while, the world without Russia today, the world without bot farms, the world without paid talking heads, because nobody pays those talking heads anymore, all right? Imagine a world without the informational warfare. People spreading bullshit about flat earth on TikTok, that is the smallest problem we can imagine. That is literally not dangerous at all, trust me, because there's more people who actually graduated from like middle school or high school than people making TikToks like that. That is not the problem. The informational warfare designed by terrorists sitting in Moscow, right, sitting in Pyongyang, sitting in Beijing, those are dangerous, especially when true American patriots, all right, who run their channels for other American patriots actually receive Russian rubles, all right, and a lot of Russian rubles, and happily spread the Russian disinformation designed in Moscow for them. That is the reason. When American patriots say shit like, I would go and fight for Russia, all right? Or they say shit like, Ukrainians, just give up. Me, as a real patriot of my country, all right, I'm telling you this, just give up, all right? Because that's what patriots do. So that is very, very dangerous. Don't blame people, all right? Blame the actual terrorists, those who are actually responsible for that. And I think that's a proper thing to do. So, my dear friends, I won't keep you busy any longer. Please have yourself something good, have lunch. I will definitely have like brunch or something. Let's keep in touch. I'll see you most probably in the evening, maybe tomorrow morning. We will see. I will keep you informed, all right? Stay tuned with the community posts updates, because I think it's important to also inform when exactly I'm gonna have streams, all right? Because after all, I feel responsibility. Thank you so much for watching. Once again, thanks to all the legendary people who supports my brigade. It's something extremely, extremely important to me, because I'm trying to help my guys, and that is literally my first big fundraiser, a car for my brigade. And I thank you so much for supporting the legendary Hostomel Brigade, currently fighting in Pokrovsk. Thank you so much for standing with Ukraine. This is something I will never forget, and something Ukrainian people will always remember and keep it in their hearts, in their souls. Thank you so much for being decent. Thank you so much for having empathy to Ukrainian people. We will always remember this. So, my dear friends, let's not cry. See you later. Be safe and have something tasty.